Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the GOAT, or the greatest of all Titos, and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of all Titos or uncles around the world. Possibly a few, but definitely not all.
I want to talk about my faith this time. Hey, kamusta? It's your Tito E-Boy, also known as the GOAT, or the greatest of all Titos, and welcome to the channel. I am a born-again Christian. I converted to Christianity after my mom became born again as well. In the entire family, she was the first to become born again Christian, as all mothers do. Siyempre, kung meron silang sariling paniniwala, or if they believe in something that well or that much, then they would try their very best to convince the entire family to convert as well. And that's what we did. Everybody converted. Me, my sister. Last was my dad. My older brother also converted to Christianity. Anyway, this is not a video to convince you. Gusto ko lang magkwento why I'm still a Christian. Many times in the past, things happen, and when I pray about it, it gets answered. There are a few, of course, that don't get answered, and it's because from what I learned, you have to have that relationship first. That relationship with God or with Jesus. And it is because through that relationship, you get to know the person well enough that when you start praying, it is in line with what God or Jesus wants for you. I don't know if that makes sense. I'll give you an example. And I don't know if you would think that there's a connection to that, but I love telling these stories, especially to people who parang hindi sila buong naniniwala to the power of prayer. And again, this is because of that relationship. I don't have that perfect relationship. I try to. Anyway, so I'll give you 3 scenarios that prove that God answers prayers. The first 2, you might think na baka tsamba lang, but the third one, I believe it was indeed answered. So I was going to work. That time I had a small sandwich shop with my best friend, and it was in Mandaluyong. And the parking area where we would park our cars normally is right behind where our location was. And between the 2 buildings, there's this parang gap na walang bubong. So tatawid ka doon. So there will be time na paglabas mo ng garahe or ng parking area, tatawid ka pa ng konti to get into technically the other building. And it rained so hard, and I had a lot of stuff with me na hindi pwede mabasa. And I had that sudden inkling to pray, and while I was walking, I prayed to God to stop the rain for just a few seconds para makatawid ako. And it was interesting kasi the moment I stepped out from the garage or from the parking area, the rain stopped. As in, nakita kong huminto yung rain. And parang, ano pa nga, napahinto pa ako. Kasi I remember driving into the parking area. Basang-basa ako, G.O.A.T. And when I stepped out, it was bone dry, I think. And as I was walking, syempre, yung gamit ko, safe, hindi na babasa eh. Pero mga 2 or 3 steps before I got into the covered area, it started to drizzle. Then umulan. Another story that I'd like to point about prayer was when I was in the mall, specifically in Albag Town Center. When we got to the mall, to the parking lot of the mall, maraming kotse, and everybody was waiting for a vacant car. Siguro ang bilang ko, there were like around 4 or 5 cars in that area where I was. And as you know, when you go to churches, people will say, pray for a parking space, pray for a parking space. And in a way, parang jokingly, I said, sige, let's pray for a parking space. But instead of me saying, Lord, bigyan mo po ako ng parking space, what I said was, please provide parking space for the 3 or 4 other cars who came in ahead of me. And I'm not kidding, when I opened my eyes, 4 cars, all near or beside those 3 or 4 other cars, including me. 4 cars came out of the parking slot, essentially giving the 4 or 5 of us a parking slot right away. Insane. Third story. Now this, I would believe that it's because of prayer. 2017, my mom was rushed to the hospital kasi she felt very weak. She couldn't stand up. As in, when I picked her up, inakbayan pa siya ng kapatid ko, helping her to the car. Got her to the car. She was immediately checked in to Asian Hospital. Within 3 days, she had pneumonia and she had sepsis. Within less than a week, she was put into ICU and stayed there for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And I remember, I think that was the most chapters of the Bible that I've read in one sitting every day while I was in the hospital. And I remember praying to God for mom to be healed. Kasi nga sabi nila, it's like a 70-80% chance that she would not make it because of the condition. Because she's old, she has pneumonia, and she has sepsis. And I had this feeling that she wasn't gonna leave yet. And that was where my prayer revolved on. And I even promised God that if God heals her, that I would go back to exercising and dieting. And she's still here with us. The funny thing is, when I was praying for her, I remember this clearly. It was like she was already out of ICU and she was already in the parang recovery room before they put her back to the regular room. And I was praying to her, for her. I was praying for her. And what impressed on me was, and the prayer was, it was a Tuesday, the prayer specifically was, in 2 days you go home. And Thursday, July 27th, 2017, Mom went out with us. Iba ang power of prayer. This is not a video to try to convince you to try Christianity. Gusto ko lang i-share the experience ko and how powerful prayer is. You don't even need to be a Christian. You pray. And be sincere about it. And see where it will take you. Yun lang. That's all I want. And now, it's time for Tito Joke of the Day. Anong tawag sa paboritong isda ng mga hip-hop? Sup, sup! Bye!